Hey everybody, it's Caesar with the Local Service Podcast here in the apartment today. We changed scenery, picked up all the stuff from the office and brought it home because number one, I'm beat up. Just came back from Mount Whitney and that was the most difficult thing that I've physically have ever done. It was literally the worst thing that I can voluntarily choose to do and I didn't know it was going to be that. So if you don't know, Mount Whitney is the tallest mountain in the lower 48 states. So uh, everything except Alaska and Hawaii. Like, there's not going to be anything taller than Mount Whitney. And when I was climbing this mountain, I noticed that, wow, no wonder people use mountains as metaphors all the time. It's because now that I'm doing this podcast, I was climbing up the mountain. I was like, wow, like there's a bunch of stuff that I can talk about here because it's literally everyone can understand what it is to hit an obstacle or what it is to get or can imagine what it is to get altitude sickness, or can imagine what it is to get to the very top of the mountain, or can imagine to see like what is it like when you're 10,000 feet in the air, 14,000 feet in the air on this mountain, like, and you can kind of easily imagine what that would be like. And so while I was climbing for the first, let's say 4 miles, I was got all these ideas like, oh, I can talk about how putting your head down and just going up is a way of looking at marketing, or how you can excuse me, how you can make sure you don't look down and just keep going so that you don't get the fear of heights in you if you're scared of heights. Thought about like having the right team, right? Like the people that you go with matter. And so all these things added up real fast. I was like, okay, there's all these things I can talk about. But then what actually happens in real life is that, holy smokes, this is actually a lot harder than I thought. I can't even think straight. I'm literally just a body floating around on this mountain trying to make it to the top. And so all my clear thoughts came like the first 4 miles and then the remaining like 7 up and 11 down. I mean, I was just a body with like semi motor. And so anyways, I made a small list here of a couple things that I think are good analogies, good metaphors for climbing the marketing mountain. And so this is going to be a super cheesy um, episode, but I think it'll be helpful, especially just because the metaphors are very easy to understand. And they're not going to be in any particular order because I don't really gauge which one is bigger or smaller. They're just how they came to me, and we'll go from there. So, number one is know what mountain you want to climb. So, it's not so much that I think everybody knows that they want to climb a mountain. But what specific mountain do you want to climb? A lesson I learned is I chose to just climb a mountain. I didn't specify what mountain I wanted to climb. And so now that I've climbed this mountain, the hardest thing I've ever physically done, I never ever want to experience anything like that ever again because that mountain was way too out of my league. It was not something that I was trained for. It was not something that I was used to. I'm not an experienced hiker. And to make all matters worse, I got altitude sickness. I couldn't breathe. I would breathe in and I would get no oxygen. So I felt dizzy the entire time. I couldn't sleep. It was literally the worst thing ever. And so what I learned there is like, okay, it's not that I'm against climbing mountains. I probably should have picked a better mountain to start with. And so to relate that to marketing, it's like you don't have to go and try to dominate the biggest marketing campaign that there is. You probably shouldn't go into a marketing campaign. For example, you could say, screw it. I'm going to borrow $50,000. I'm going to go to the local radio stations here in Houston, and I'm going to ask them to give me a spot on the best spot available Monday through Friday. And you buy it and you spend $50,000, but you haven't done anything prior. You haven't tested even smaller stations. You haven't run Facebook ads. You haven't run Google ads. You haven't posted on Instagram. You just skip all the steps and you go and try to do what Coca-Cola does. And that is a good metaphor because you shouldn't really start that way. Like, yeah, maybe it works. It's honestly more of a Hail Mary. It would have made more sense to start with a $2,000 budget, run it on Google Ads, and learn that one first. Master that mountain first. Look at the maps. Look at how the weather is. Look at the elevation. Look at how the weather is in each part of the mountain. Look at your resources, right? And so knowing what mountain to climb is just as important as wanting to climb a mountain, if not more important, because you might climb up the wrong mountain. And to relate that to like a bigger picture of business is like, okay, this is a marketing podcast, right? But let's say you're improving your marketing for something you don't want to do. Like maybe you're in the wrong business. That's another like I don't have this thoughts because I like what I do. I like the advertising agency side of things. So I like that. I like the mountain I'm climbing. But you could take a step back and say, I'm getting better at closing sales. I'm getting better at getting customers. I'm better at customer service. We're better at creating products. But all these things that I'm doing and becoming better at, I don't actually want to do. You know, like as the example is like, maybe you don't want to climb that mountain. Maybe the mountain climbing isn't for you. Maybe it's more about jogging. Maybe it's more about running. Maybe it's more about lifting. To keep going on that metaphor. So the point is, know what mountain you want to climb, and that's important. One more analogy or metaphor with this one is that when you do, it's better to know what mountain you want to climb, when you're going, who you're going with, what you're taking, being prepared for it, both physically and with, tents and food and flashlights, all that stuff. Because when you know where you're going, when, what time, with who, you're going to be way more prepared than if you just show up kind of loosely ready. Because the point I'm making is know your customer. Like that was my point. When you're climbing a mountain and you know what's there, just imagine that being a customer. Like, okay, if I know their age range, if I know what they're looking for, if I know what their pain points are, if I know where to find them, if I know if they exist more on Facebook or more on Google, if I know that they have X amount of money to spend, if I know that they've been to my store before and I'm retargeting them, all that information is going to make it easier to attract that customer, to get that lead, to get that phone call, to make that happen. And so that is the first analogy that I got here. And here's the next one. Number 2 is I'm gonna forget the numbering. I know I'm gonna forget the numbering, but I'm gonna keep it going. So number 2 is when I first got there and I started climbing this mountain, Mount Whitney. I was the speed demon, right? Like I was with the other guys that were going pretty fast. Like when I got there, again, the altitude wasn't that high, and it wasn't affecting me yet. So we just started booking it. Like we were going fast, and I felt fast. I felt like I was kind of I was heavy breathing because I knew I was going fast. Like not just that, we had 30 pounds on the back of our backs. So there's a big difference between moving at sea level with just your body weight and moving 10,000 feet up in the mountain with 30 pounds behind you, basically doing a stairmaster or lunges for like a super long time. And so what I'm getting at is I initially thought that I was going to be able to do this without any problems. So we go up, let's say 1,000 feet. I don't know. It ended up being like 6 miles the first day, but like when I hit that 5th mile, I got super tired. Like I can notice like, hey, I was going super fast. Now I'm getting really short of breath, and every step I take, like I want to just stop. So I would take a break, and I'd be like, this is weird. Like, this is different. I don't know what this feeling is. And then I would be like, okay, that should be long enough. 30-second break. I caught my breath. Let's go. And then I would take 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, and I'd be like, whoa, there it goes again. I've lost all my powers. Like, if my power was endurance or stamina, like, it's gone. So I was like, this is super weird. So I kept doing that. I kept taking a couple steps, super tired. Rest 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, do it again, a couple steps. And so I ended up being in a position where there was only, I want to say like half a mile left, and I could not finish it. We did the first 5 miles in, let's say, 3 hours, and the last mile took like 2 because I think everybody else was fine, but specifically for me, I was torched, I was gassed, I was fried. And so I thought like there's no way I can finish this. Like I got motion sickness, I got altitude sickness, like I was messed up. And so, we set up the tents, we eat, we go to sleep, we wake up the next day, stupid early, by the way. And I'm like, okay, hopefully I'm acclimated to the weather, and maybe now I can go back to how it was when I first started. Mind you, we're like super high in the air. Like it's not gonna happen. But that was my thought. Like, okay, maybe in less than 12 hours, I'll be able to get acclimated to the altitude. And so I start walking, and I get 7 steps in, like nothing. The day just started. I've eaten, I've drank water, I've slept, 3 hours or whatever. And I'm like, there's no way. Like I'm walking, I'm literally just walking. It's not like I'm walking hard. I'm just walking at a normal pace with less weight because now that we have our tent set up, we can leave most of our stuff behind and just take really a backpack full of water and food. And I give up. Like I'm like, there's just no way that I can do this. I can't take more than 7 steps without getting super tired. And the rest of the group is like flying by. Like they're in comparison, they're walking. Like they're literally just walking. But it feels like they're flying by. And if you look at this mountain, I mean, you look like this. You're like, it is like straight up there. You can't. And to think like we're going up that, it's daunting. So good thing that it was very dark because I actually couldn't see everything, but I could paint a picture like, okay, that's gonna be a lot of up, and it's gonna be that for 6-7 hours, and I gave up. I quit. I literally quit. And here's where the metaphors come in. So number one, my teammate, right, which was my friend, he slowed down with me. He waited for me. He waited for me to catch up to him. Then he got behind me and he noticed. I told him, "Hey, dude, like I don't think I can do this. Go ahead and go. And if I can make it, I'll try to make it as close as I can to the top, and then I'll just turn around." And he's like, "You know what? Just slow it down. Like if you go as slow as you can, and we'll see how far we can get." And we still have a lot of time. It's still early. It's like 4 a.m. Even if we summit at 9 or 10 or even 11 or 12, which would be like a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, an 8-hour hike to do whatever it was, 5 miles or whatever. Like even if it's that, we should be fine. Like, and then okay, when he put it like that, I was like, that's true. And I was like, all right, let me just walk as slow as I can. I'm gonna walk as slow as I can, and I'm gonna do this breathing exercise that somebody showed me. One of my friends showed me the night before because I couldn't breathe, and I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna try that. So I started walking very slowly, breathing very slowly, kept that heart rate down, and I started moving like this, like slower than a walk. Like it was ridiculously slow. Like I was barely moving. I felt kind of dumb. I was like, really? Like this is it? But even when I was walking that slow and I was breathing like that, like I was still super messed up, and like I was in pain. Like it hurt to do all this. So I really couldn't think too much about it. I just like and I think because of the breathing, I just stopped thinking. And I just kind of got into like this meditative move of like moving slowly and breathing, moving slowly and breathing. And every now and then I would stop for like a little break, but it wasn't never too bad. Like if there was like a big jump with your leg, because it was like a big stairmaster, right? Like sometimes you had to like kind of hop up there. When that happened, I had to take like a little break. But for the most part, I got to move like this, super slow. And so I wasn't thinking. I just looked at the ground and I did this. And before you know it, the sun is like halfway up, and I turn around, and my friend who encouraged me to keep going, he's like, "We should eat some food. So let's open up the gas thing and heat up some of this oatmeal and eat it." And so we stopped, and again, I looked up and I was like, "Holy smokes! Like we were down there. Now we're like over here. Like we've at this point we've made progress." And he's like, "Yeah, dude, we've made progress." And that little win, like it was very quiet, very slow, but you could see the progress. You could see that we were down there. Now we're up here. And that alone is like, holy crap. If we go that slow, which is not that slow, by the way, like, let's say it was an hour. Like we moved, I think, I don't know, a mile and a half or something like that. And I was like, wow, okay. I got encouraged. I was like, okay, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can do it if I get if I get there that slow. And so there's two things here. Number one is with marketing, you can't always tell when you're making progress. And I can't believe like this has literally been around forever and somehow we all miss it. Me, you, everybody misses this always for some reason. We can't get this through our heads. Is that slow and steady always wins the race? I don't think that's the best one, like saying for it, but slow and steady will get you to your destination. Let's say it like that, because it's not really winning a race. You know, sometimes you're not racing people. Sometimes you're just racing yourself. Even if it's your own business, like yes, you have competition, but like if your goal is whatever, 100,000 a month or something, if you want to get there, then that's your goal. Like you don't really, if your competition is making 50 or 150 or 500,000, it's like, okay, yes, you can compare it and one could win the race, but it's really a you thing. Like just keep it within what you can control, right? I think that's the right thing. And it's true, like slow and steady wins the race, because or gets you to your destination, because what I have seen, and I literally had a client this month sign up with me, let's say 2 weeks ago. They're like super excited. Yes, here's, we want to spend this much money on Facebook ads and we want to try this because when we set it up, it was working great. We just want somebody with more experience to help us do this. Okay, cool. Signed them up, got all the information, created ads that are better, than what they had. The targeting is better than what they had. By all accounts, this was going to perform better than it was. 2 days later, I think it went live like on a Wednesday. They called me on a Friday. They're like, hey, stop the ads. We don't want to do this. This isn't working. We'd rather not do this anymore because it's not giving us the results that we expected. And they were still getting the same kind of leads that they were getting in the past. They were still targeting the people that they wanted to target. They were still getting activity from it, but they only let it run for 2 days. So I said, okay, that's kind of weird, but hey, give it a couple more days. Let me try and add some more creative so that we can at least see, okay, this one works this way, just to give them more data. Like, hold on, man, slow down. Like, it's been literally 2 days. Let's take a chill pill. And then the weekend passes, and then I think literally, let's say 4 days later, they call again. They're like, we want to pause it. Like, we don't think it's working. We don't think it's gonna work. We just want to stop it here, and that's it. And this is literally the opposite of the slow and steady, because yet Facebook does work. Google Ads does work. Flyers work. Stickers on windshields work. Wrapping your car works. Traditional billboards work. Radio works. TV works. All these things work if you're patient enough to figure out how to maximize the efficiency of each of these marketing channels. Because, I mean, if they didn't work, people wouldn't buy them, number one. Number two, it's not that easy to figure out. It's not that easy to just put $30 on a Facebook ad post and expect to get 30 new leads. If that were the case, I mean, this world would be crazy if that were the case. Imagine like if everything just worked. If everything just worked, it'd be like, what's the point of anything then? I'll throw, $100 on ads. I'll, like hire this magical person who can close them all. I hire this other magical person who can do all the services and provide the best results that are impossible to get it wrong. Like, imagine if it worked like that. That would not be fun. Like, how would that be fun? There's nothing to solve. Everything just works. And so, slow and steady gets you to your destination. No, that's part number one of that story. Part number two of that story is like, know your team, right? So if it wasn't for my friend who told me, hey, just slow it down, we have enough time, there's no need to rush it. If it wasn't for that, I would have quit. I would have never submitted. I would have never kept going, and I would have just stayed back at the tent place and for like 8 hours and just would have been bored, and I would have not been up there with my friends and conquered it. I wouldn't have won that challenge. And so that's a big deal right there. Not only that, I didn't quit one time. I quit like 17 times, and he kept me in the game. So having good teammates, good coworkers, employees, bosses, mid-level managers, that's another thing that can really change your business, right? But if you're in marketing, right? Like if you're in like this is for local services, right? If you're a small team, if you're owner operators, having someone to bounce ideas off of, to confirm things, to say like, hey, does this work? Should we keep it going? Should we stop it? Should we spend more money? Should we spend less money? Like having somebody that you can talk to that can back you up and you back them up. I mean, Well, you know, of course that's gonna help. And so to add to that story, though, I had some friends that were way ahead. That what's cool is like you can look down. You could look down and say like, hey, like they could still see us, like going super slow, but they could see us. And you know, some of them said, hey, you know, does your head hurt? And I was like, yeah, it hurts, like screaming. Right? Actually, my friend was screaming for me. And they're like, okay, we're gonna leave you some Tylenol up here. When you get here, take this Tylenol. Like that's awesome. And then again, my friend the day prior showed me how to breathe. If it wasn't for that, I really don't, you know, it would have been that much harder. And then lastly, they also left us the stove that we cooked on. They were ahead. They're like, hey, we're gonna leave the stove down here so you guys can eat. And so like those friends that were ahead were looking out for us and provided us with the supplies that we needed to finish without them. Like yes, they went in front of us, and they went kind of like their own route, like they did it on their own time frame, but they still passed on things, resources that helped us finish. And so again, that's just good teamwork. Encouraging words, you know, all that stuff like that. That stuff mattered big time, because if it wasn't for that stuff, I'm telling you, I just would have turned around. I would have gone home. I would have gone back to the tents. Not because I didn't want to, but because like I physically felt like I couldn't. And the fact that we did it. So once we hit the summit, right, then you have to go down 11 miles. I'm already exhausted, but going down those 11 miles, it's like you're literally retracing what you just did, and you're like, dude, did we really just climb this thing? Like, what is wrong with us? That's insane. And going down was like just as hard. Like it was just as hard. It's actually longer. The sun was like blazing your face. Like it was awful. Like it was literally the most awful thing I've ever experienced. I can't honestly say I would do it again. I'm glad that it was worth it because the challenge was completed. But damn, like that. I'd start with a smaller mountain, you know. That's how I would start. So that's that part. Let's see what else we got here. So yeah, your team and slow and steady wins the race. I have a call in 10 minutes. Um, the other thing, number 3, right? Let's call it number 3. Is when I put my head down and I just kept walking, right? I would look up every now and then, right? I would look up every now and then. So like, let's say 15 minutes pass, I would look up, and I'd be like, wow, the scenery has really changed. And then I'd be like, wow, this is really nice. Like it's really beautiful in this mountain area. But then you put your head down and you keep walking. And then you put your head up and you're like, holy crap, this is a cliff. Like I can literally see where I would crumble into a million pieces if I were to slip off this mountain. Very scary. And then you put your head down, you keep going. And then you look up and it's like, what the heck? There's snow. Like why is there snow? Right? Or ice, and it's slippery. It's like, okay, it's weird. So you just adjust and you keep walking. And then you run into other people. The point is, you put your head down, you keep going, you move forward, and you're going to be somewhere else. And that's the way it is. Like the environment's going to change, you're going to need to adapt, but no matter what you're doing or where you're at, like you have to keep moving forward because you're trying to get somewhere. And that's the idea. Like things are always going to change. You're going to run into rocks. You're going to run into trees. You're going to run into deer. We saw deer. You're going to run into, you know, there's these freaking little raccoon looking things that are menaces. But that's one part of it. The other part of it is know the objective, okay? I think this is a good one. This is like the one that kept repeating in my head. It's like know the objective. What is the goal of this adventure, of this journey? For the Mount Whitney, it was to get to the top. That was the goal. That was the only objective, the only goal. That is how you measured the trip. It's like, did I get to the top? And so for me, it was like, okay, screw how I'm gonna get down. I just need to get up there. You know, whatever it takes. I just need to get up there. I'll mission accomplish it, and then I'll figure out how to get down. Extremely dangerous, by the way. So within that philosophy, there was a part where you were exposed. They call it exposed, meaning like you're right on the side of the mountain and you can just see like a cliffhanger. Like there you go, right? And I was warned, like, I'm scared of heights. Everybody knows this. I'm super scared of heights. And there was a guy in front of us that says, hey, I've done this a lot of times. Just be aware. Like, this is the kind of scary part that some people start freaking out. And I was like, okay, cool. I know that it's coming. I know that I am scared of heights. But I also know that I really want to finish this mountain. And I don't want this height to be what stops me. So what I did, because I'm thinking about, like, what is the objective? The objective is get to the top of the mountain. So when I got to the part where the cliffhanger's at, or whatever you call it, where you're exposed, I just didn't look. I just didn't like. I didn't look at how high it was. I didn't look at how nice it looked because a lot of people like how it looked. I just didn't look because it has nothing to do with me getting to the top. So instead, what I did is I looked down. I try to get like my peripheral away from the view, and I just kept going. I literally kept going. We passed it, and I think it was half a mile going that way, like going the first time, going up the mountain, and then half a mile going back. And I can honestly say, I don't know how high we were. I just never looked. Because if I looked, it doesn't help my chances of getting to the top of the mountain. It doesn't help it doesn't do anything for me. What's my objective? To get to the top. Then I'm not gonna look because it doesn't matter whether I look or don't look. It's not gonna get me to my goal, my objective, the top of the mountain. And so the translation there is don't get distracted, right? Like if your goal is to get leads from Facebook ads, then don't worry if you're not getting likes or if you're not getting shares or if you're not getting comments. If your goal is to get form submissions from Google ads to your website, then don't worry what if the impression rate's too low or if the click-through rate isn't good enough. Like focus on what is the number one thing you need to do to make these ads effective and just drill that down. Because a lot of the stuff is distractions. A lot of the stuff is just fluff. It's data, but it's fluff and it's irrelevant to what your goal is. Sometimes, okay? Sometimes, yeah, you need to make sure that the click-through rate is manageable. You need to make sure that the click-through rate isn't something atrocious because then there's something probably wrong with the targeting you're doing. It's most likely going to be a search partner's issue. Just go into the settings of the campaign, turn it off, and you should be good to go. But don't get distracted with things in marketing that don't necessarily get you to where you want to be. I think that's a very good one. And with that being said, we have about 3 minutes left. Let's see if there's anything else. So the strategy can change, right? With marketing and with mountain climbing, the strategy was get up as fast as possible. Then I figured out, well, I can't breathe and I can't take more than 6 steps. Strategy changed, slow it down, take as long as you need. Strategies can change, but the goal was the same. Back to that. The goal was the exact same. Mission accomplished. Mission wasn't to finish as fast as possible. Mission was to get to the top. So the marketing side is like, it's not to get as many leads as fast as possible. It's to get a consistent amount of leads per month to reach X goal revenue wise. Know your team. We already did that one. Being prepared, stuff like that. Slow and steady always wins. And you know what? I think I'm going to end it here. So that is going to be the Local Service Podcast episode 3, I believe. And it's going to be the mountain, climbing the marketing mountain. And yeah, I don't know if I would ever do Mount Whitney again or any mountain as of this right now. Just got back. Like if you can't tell, my lips are chalked. Like there's like wind blasting all over it. Yeah, it was an experience. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me at caesar@symphonyadvertising.com and see you on the next one.